To me that yesterday I got the day wrong, and I must just say that 18 days into a response, sometimes the days can sort of blur into each other a wee bit. Hopefully we've got the right day today. I'm Rachel Kelleher. I'm one of the Deputy Controllers for Auckland Emergency Management, and I have with me today our Mayor Wayne Brown, Met Service Auckland-based meteorologist Georgina Griffiths, Auckland Transport's Executive General Manager of Safety Stacey Vanderputten, New Zealand Defence Force Colonel Mel Child, Fire and Emergency New Zealand District Manager Brad Mosby, and Vector Chief Operating Officer of Electricity, Gas and Fibre Peter Ryan. As we have quite a lot to get through this afternoon and some important information to share, I'm just going to ask that we don't take any questions, or we won't be taking any questions until we get through all of the speakers and to the end of the update, and that will just ensure that we get people the information that they want in a timely fashion. Then we will open up for questions. So starting with today's update, so Cyclone Gabrielle has not failed to keep us busy throughout the day, and we're continuing to work closely with the teams at Auckland Council, the Mayoral Office and our partner agencies to prepare and respond accordingly. I'm going to start, like I usually do, with inviting Georgina Griffiths, our Met Service meteorologist, to now give an update on Cyclone Gabrielle and share a bit about how it's behaving and what we can expect over the next coming hours, days. Thanks, Georgina.
So hello Auckland, how are we going? We're about halfway through. We've had, as expected, the wind impacts. A lot of power out overnight yesterday and today with those easterly gales. Now that wind has favoured obviously Great Barrier Island particularly, but also the north and east of New Zealand. So we're in a wee bit of a break or a pause at the moment for wind. But we want to start focusing on this afternoon's rainfall. It's round 2, weather impact number 2. At the moment, the rainfall totals that we've seen in the last day and a half have just done their job of making everything nice and soggy again in Auckland, but no real impacts yet seen. Now, what we are monitoring is a line of heavier rainfall, so downpour type rain rates, those high intensity rain rates, that is currently sitting off the west coast of Auckland. We expect that some of those heavier falls start to roll back into Auckland later this afternoon, this evening and tonight. And that is why we still have a red heavy rain warning in force. Now, we do not expect everyone to see the high intensity falls. There will be parts of Auckland or pockets of Auckland likely to see those heavier totals, heavier rain rates. If you see some heavier rain rates, Auckland, unfortunately, because we're so saturated, we would expect to see some localised impacts, flooding or slips. Particularly the slips. I think exacerbating the slips is something that, given our saturated region, we expect to see. But not everyone will see it, and if you wake up tomorrow and the rain is stopped, which we're looking forward to, and you haven't had those flooding or slip impacts, well done. But just remember, some parts of Auckland may not be as lucky as you were. For everybody though, we expect the wind to come back and from a different direction. So we're in a wee bit of a pause now as the wind is turning. I will note that Great Barrier Island may not see any pause because they're very close to Cyclone Gabrielle right now. It's expected to track very close to the island, just east of the island tonight. So Barrier's in for a hard night, but the rest of Auckland, it's about the wind, the southwest gales returning overnight and tomorrow. And I think parts of Auckland that have not yet seen damaging or challenging wind conditions are likely to see a period of severe southwest gales tomorrow. Lastly, I will touch on the 2 a.m. high tide that's coming in overnight. A storm surge is still likely for eastern Auckland, parts of the east coast, but given that Gabrielle is just east of the barrier, these effects are slightly lesser than what I was expecting yesterday. I would say that it is still eyes on at around 2 a.m. high tide, because that is when we will, if we were to see impacts from coastal inundation or more likely swell and waves helping bring that high tide up and over, that is when we will see it. We have lower confidence on the impacts of that coastal storm surge, and while we might be able to pin down the timing, it is a marginal one, and we will expect to, act prepared, hope for the best. Thank you.
Thanks, Georgina. I'd now like to invite our Mayor Wayne Brown to say a few words. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Rach. Right, thanks, Rachel, and good afternoon, everybody. The next 24 hours will be challenging for all Aucklanders, and we've just heard the latest forecast. Please pay attention to it and remember things can be worse than expected. Continue to keep an eye on those who are around you and supporting your neighbourhoods and communities where you live. The Auckland Council, its government agencies and the military continue to respond to those who need help and support. They're working at full capacity. Please be patient if you have to wait for assistance. The staff at the Emergency Management Centres have been on the job for several days and nights now, and I can't thank them enough for their huge effort. Please stay calm. Panicking will only add to danger and uncertainty, making it harder to get through the next 36 hours. As long as it's safe, stay at home. You'll be notified when the danger is past and it's safe to go out, and the best and most up-to-date information continues to be at the websites that Rachel will detail, aem.org.nz. If your home's flooded, you must evacuate immediately. If you've got nowhere to go to the nearest evacuation centre, and if you cannot evacuate and life is at risk, call 111. The Prime Minister, Mr Hipkins, has assured me that the government will help and support the people of Auckland to get through the storm and beyond. Going to be a hard night and a very difficult week, and for many the recovery will be long. But together Aucklanders are strong. By supporting each other, we will get through the cyclone and stay safe, Aucklanders. Now, I know that she said we're going to have no questions until the end, but I can take two, but I've got to go off to a drainage solution where my engineering expertise has been called upon, so I do have to buzz off to one, so I'll take two if anyone's got them, otherwise I'm off to do drains.
Mr Mayor, can you explain what expertise you'll be taking to the drainage experts?
Well, I'm an engineer in this field, and you'll recall that Christchurch I led one of the teams of inspectors and everything else. So this is the repairs and upgrades and the avoidings of these things is my background.
And you'll be offering what?
Well, I think support and understanding. It's good to have. I've worked also with our geological engineers that are employed by council. We both agree on a lot of the solutions and causes, and I think the technical people are pleased to have a technically minded mayor with them. Okay? Yeah, another one? Yes, sir.
Mr Mayor, are you putting out emergency messages in multiple languages for communities who don't speak English?
Well, I'm not personally, but I'm sure we are. I think that's covered pretty well, and I think that those sorts of questions will be answered by Rachel. But thanks very much. Cheers, and thanks for coming, team. Bye.
I can perhaps touch on that question a little bit later on when we get to the end of the briefing. So as you've heard, we expect the impacts of Cyclone Gabrielle to get unfortunately a wee bit worse before they get better, and it's not the time to be complacent. We're not quite out of the woods yet. I can't stress enough that please have a plan to leave your home if you see water levels rising around you, or if you're worried about land stability around your property. Don't wait to be told to leave. We heard from our Met Service meteorologist, Georgina, that not all of Auckland is going to see the same weather or necessarily the same impacts. So it's really important that you keep an eye out on your own situation, and if you feel that you're in a place that's unsafe, that you take that action. If you live close to low-lying areas but on higher ground, you may like to offer your friends and neighbours a place to stay so that they can have a better night's sleep. Let's come together and look out for one another. Civil Defence Centres shelters and a number of community-led sites have been receiving people who have not been able to stay in their homes or with friends and whānau. While demand for these services since last night has been relatively low, We will continue to maintain these services through today and overnight to ensure that they're ready for anyone who needs them. A reminder just that you can find the locations of the Civil Defence Centres and shelters on our Auckland Emergency Management website, aem.org.nz, as well as a number of community-led shelters that have been stood up. The Auckland City Mission has been mobilised to provide shelter for people experiencing homelessness, and there are a range of people working together to make sure that everyone has access to a warm, dry place to shelter throughout whatever weather we experience in the next 36 hours. A big thank you to everybody for their mahi. I'm now going to hand over to Fire and Emergency District Manager Brad Mosby to give an update on the demand for their services so far and to reiterate what you can do to keep yourself safe. Thanks.
Kia ora koutou katoa, Brad Mosby, District Manager for Fire and Emergency New Zealand. And I'm here to share information about Fire and Emergency New Zealand's response across the top of the North Island, which is still the main area of impact from the impacts of Cyclone Gabrielle. Just want to reiterate again that our priority, number one priority, is the safety and well-being of our first responders. So we're giving them all the resources they need to get out into our communities and do the work to keep our communities safe. Over the past 12 hours, from 1 a.m. this morning, we logged 198 incidents relating to severe weather. So specifically, that was 91 incidents in Northland related to the weather, 62 in Auckland, 35 in Waikato, and that's mostly in the Coromandel area. A smaller number of calls have been received in the Bay of Plenty and Hawke's Bay. So most of these calls that we have been responding to are related to wind damage, roofs lifting, trees blowing onto power lines and blocking roads, and a small number of trees that have fallen on buildings. We are starting to see more calls related to surface flooding as the rain intensifies. Our crews in Northland will be helping evacuate the low-lying areas of Whangarei in support of Auckland Emergency Management and police this afternoon as the high tide approaches the city basin. So we've relocated some of our own resources to higher ground in Onarahi and Hilltop, both on the outskirts of Whangarei. Fire and emergency mobile generators have been positioned at strategically located fire stations around Greater Auckland and in Paihia and Whangarei. We are setting up sectors in Tamaki Makaurau, and this includes Papatoetoe, Auckland City, Silverdale and West Harbour fire stations. These will also act as staging areas for other emergency services, including Surf Life Saving, Police and St John. We've also been in touch with Great Barrier Island, where we have a senior member of our fire and emergency team there to provide us any situational awareness as the storm progresses over there. I want to give confidence to our communities that fire and emergency has the capability to respond across Auckland and in all regions that are affected by the storm. Our crews and our communication centre staff are ready. Our regional coordination centre is fully activated, and that is being mirrored in other regions and nationally. We are working in close liaison with our emergency service partners, with emergency management in each region, and as well as the New Zealand Defence Force. We are expecting the numbers of 111 calls to go up steeply through the day, through overnight and into tomorrow. So an important information for our community and a message is, please help us get to the people who need us the most. Only call 111 if life is at risk. And for example, if you or others are trapped, you need rescuing, there is a fire, if there is a landslide, if you need to evacuate and you can't get out safely by yourself. We will always give priority to calls where life and safety is at risk. So please keep our 111 phone lines free for the people who need us urgently. Kia ora.
I'm now going to hand over to Peter Ryan from Vector, who's going to give an update on the power situation. And I just wanted to note too, of course, within Tamaki Makaurau we also have Counties Energy, and we don't have a representative from them here today, but they are also out on the ground with crews responding to outages at a number of sites.
Kia ora, everyone. As of 1 p.m, 12,000 homes and businesses are without power across the Auckland region. Thousands more have been restored, but as we get power on in some areas, we are seeing more outages occur, and so we expect to see this number fluctuate throughout today and tomorrow. At this stage, we are seeing most of the damage affecting communities north of Ariwa. Our crews and control room teams have put in a huge effort to restore power where it is safe to do so, and a massive effort will continue today and tomorrow, as the worst of the weather is due to hit the region later today. Our thoughts go out to those who have been impacted by the event so far across the Upper North Island. For Auckland customers without power, we understand it's frustrating, and we thank you for your patience. Our teams are doing their best to get to you as quickly and as safely as we can, and they are highly motivated to get customers back up and running. We've already seen the impact Cyclone Gabrielle is having on Northland, the far north, Coromandel and counties, and want to reassure customers that we have been preparing for this since the initial warnings began and have plenty of crews available to respond. We are dealing with conditions that are extremely challenging following the bad weather throughout January, where saturated soils are leading to trees coming down easily in high winds. The teams in the field are facing difficult conditions, which means some of our repair work may take longer than usual. For example, near Warkworth, we needed to organise an excavator to reach 4 damaged poles that our trucks are unable to get close to. In other areas, strong winds have delayed our crews carrying out aerial work because it is too dangerous for them to go up in their bucket trucks. The safety of our crews and local communities is absolutely paramount to us. We are communicating with customers through a range of channels, including directly, social media, and of course media. We know it's extremely difficult to be without power, especially when it is for an extended period of time. Given the unknowns of the conditions ahead of us, we want customers to be prepared for the potential of extended outages. So please be assured that we are doing everything we safely can to help. We encourage anyone with welfare needs to contact Civil Defence directly, and we are in touch regularly with the Civil Defence teams. Finally, please remember to stay well clear of fallen power lines or damaged electrical equipment, and to treat them as live at all times. If you or someone in your household is using medical equipment that relies on electricity, let your retailer know, for example Mercury, Genesis, contact if you lose power. If there is an immediate health threat, please contact your health provider or call 111. Thank you.
Just was advised that there was a cut to the live feed early on in the broadcast. So what I'm going to do is when we get to the end of the updates from the various partners that I have here, I'll just invite Georgina perhaps to do a quick recap of the forecast, and then we'll go into questions. I'd now like to bring up Colonel Mel Childs. So Colonel Mel Childs is from the New Zealand Defence Force Task Force group. She's the commander and is here with us today to just share a bit of information about the work that New Zealand Defence Force has been doing alongside us.
Tēnā koutou katoa. The New Zealand Defence Force has been working alongside North Island Regional Emergency Management in preparation to respond to Cyclone Gabrielle. We have approximately 150 personnel and a mix of different types of vehicles positioned ready to respond across the Northland, Auckland, Waikato and Bay of Plenty regions. Over the past week, the Defence Force personnel have been out in Auckland communities helping remove flood-damaged waste from the streets, and we've surged additional personnel to assist with this task over the last few days ahead of the forecasted weather. In the past 24 hours, our personnel have been assisting in the establishment of the civil defence centres and shelters across Auckland, delivering more than 50 pallets of emergency supplies, things like blankets, sleeping bags, warm clothes and mattresses. We also have New Zealand Defence Force liaison officers at all of the Auckland civil defence centres. Your Defence Force is ready to respond in partnership with the lead emergency management agencies, so please take heed of the advice of those agencies. And kia tūpato. Stay safe.
And finally now, I'm going to invite Stacey Vanderputten. Stacey is going to give us the latest transport updates and what we should expect overnight and into tomorrow.
Thank you, Rachel. And kia ora koutou. Firstly, we want to thank Aucklanders for listening to the guidance from Auckland Transport and Auckland Emergency Management and putting their safety and that of others first. This morning we saw significant lower traffic volumes across our roads, so probably about 50% of the usual volumes that we would see on a Monday. We're continuing to ask Aucklanders to stay home, of course, and keep off the roads unless there is an absolute urgent need in order to travel. The most up-to-date information is available on our website at at.govt.nz. Our team are updating that in real time as new information comes to hand and changes are made to the network. Some key points about the transport network today. KiwiRail has extended its suspension of all passenger train services in Auckland until at least midday Tuesday. In terms of that, we are currently working and putting rail replacement buses on an hourly frequency across the network from 3 p.m. today. That's in the final stages of being finalised. There is a number of bus replacements already in process on those planned rail network renewal works we already had running, and they on the Newmarket to Otahuhu line and on the Onehunga line that are already currently in play. We do encourage people, particularly those that work in our essential services that need to get to work on time, to look at the options available to them through the AT mobile app, because with an hour frequency there may be other bus options for you that are more usable. Scheduled bus services are running. There may be some delays and detours and cancellations across the network depending on the evolving weather conditions. For schools which are open today, we do have bus services running, and we will be prioritising that through tomorrow morning as well. So in terms of ferries, ferry services are significantly disrupted by current weather conditions, with some limited services running at the moment, with cancellations in place for Gulf Harbour, Pine Harbour and the Rakino services. All ferry services will be finishing early tonight, as conditions are expected to worsen on the Waitemata Harbour. For example, the last ferry for Devonport tonight will be 5 p.m, so we do encourage anybody that's planning to take ferries to make sure you go to the website and check when those last sailings are. In terms of roads and areas to avoid, please keep a lookout for debris and fallen trees.
OK, we're going to leave that press conference there from Auckland Emergency Management. A great update there. We're going to go now to Heather Keats. She's in with the latest on how Cyclone Gabrielle is tracking. Heather, what can you tell us?
Well, she is closing in on land, that's for sure. The Met Service has just revised the track, still has it situated directly over Great Barrier Island at 1 a.m. tomorrow morning. Then she'll turn southwest, pass over East Cape at 7 p.m. tomorrow night. We still have 36 hours of very hazardous weather ahead. Taranaki has now had their wind warning elevated to the most serious, the red warning, alongside Northland, Auckland and the Coromandel Peninsula. And heavy rain will now extend as far south as North Christchurch tomorrow morning. Of course, it's not just the wind and rain. We've got coastal inundation expected with swells of up to 7 metres for the east and west through till Wednesday afternoon.
OK, thank you for that update.